Most people believe the luxury electric car revolution was born in Silicon Valley venture capital boardrooms. But the engineer who actually designed the world's most advanced electric sedan did not start with billions in software money. He started with greasy hands on a rainy Welsh farm, rebuilding broken tractor engines. For decades, the automotive industry mocked the idea that an outsider could beat the German luxury titans at their own game. Yet, one man left the biggest electric car company on Earth, walked away from guaranteed wealth, and bet his entire reputation on a single, radical engineering gamble that almost nobody understood. To understand how Lucid Motors shook the global automotive industry, you have to look past the glitz of billion-dollar valuations and look straight into a cold, muddy garage in South Wales during the 1970s. Peter Rawlinson was not born into wealth, nor was he an executive groomed for corporate dominance. He was a boy obsessed with mechanics. Surrounded by rural farmland, he spent his childhood taking apart lawnmowers, rebuilding motorbikes, and fixing farm machinery with whatever scrap metal he could find. On a farm, if a machine breaks down, you cannot simply buy a software update. You have to understand the physical reality of torque, friction, heat, and structural stress. You learn to respect physics. That hands-on obsession earned him a spot at Imperial College London to study mechanical engineering. But while his classmates dreamed of comfortable corporate jobs, Peter was consumed by a much tougher question. Why were cars so heavy, so inefficient, and so needlessly complicated? He entered the traditional automotive industry, working his way through Jaguar and Lotus. At Lotus, he achieved what many considered an engineering miracle. He led the engineering of the Lotus Elise. It was a car celebrated worldwide for one defining philosophy: extreme lightweight efficiency. Peter discovered a fundamental rule of engineering that would later define his entire business philosophy. When you make a machine lighter and more compact, everything else gets better for free. You need less power to move it, less braking force to stop it, and less energy to sustain it. Yet, traditional car companies were moving in the exact opposite direction. They were building heavier, bulkier, and less efficient gas guzzlers. Peter realized that internal combustion engines had hit an invisible wall, and the legacy giants were too stubborn to admit it. Then, in 2009, a phone call changed everything. A young, struggling company in California named Tesla was trying to build a clean-sheet luxury electric sedan. They had a bold vision, but they were running out of time and engineering credibility. Peter took the ultimate career risk. He packed his bags, left Britain, and became the vice president and chief engineer of the Tesla Model S. For 3 intense years, Peter lived and breathed the Model S. He designed the architecture from the ground up, placing the battery pack flat on the floor to create the famous skateboard chassis. When the Model S launched in 2012, it shocked the world. It swept every major automotive award and proved to the planet that electric cars could be faster, safer, and more desirable than petrol cars. By every standard metric, Peter had reached the peak of his career. He was the chief engineer of the most celebrated car of the 21st century, and that is precisely when he walked away. In early 2012, amid intense internal friction and personal family matters, Peter resigned from Tesla. He walked out into the California sun with no company, no factory, and no guarantee that he would ever build a car again. Industry insiders thought he was finished. But Peter had noticed a critical flaw in the entire electric vehicle market, a blind spot so massive that neither Tesla nor legacy automakers like Porsche or Mercedes-Benz seemed to notice. Every electric automaker was trying to solve range anxiety by doing the easiest, most primitive thing possible: adding bigger, heavier batteries. To a farm mechanic who understood physics, this was madness. A bigger battery makes a car heavier. A heavier car requires bigger brakes, a stiffer suspension, and a larger motor. And a heavier car consumes far more electricity per mile, meaning you have to add an even bigger battery just to carry the extra weight. It was a vicious, expensive cycle. Peter saw an opportunity that no one else was pursuing. What if, instead of adding more battery cells, you made the electric powertrain so small, so miniaturized, and so hyper-efficient that you could travel further on less energy. In 2013, Peter joined a small, quiet battery company in Newark, California called Adieva. Adieva was not building cars. They were building battery packs for electric delivery vans and city buses. They were testing their battery durability under extreme conditions, eventually supplying the standard battery pack for every single Formula E racing team in the world. For seasons, every Formula E race car on the planet ran at full throttle on Adieva battery tech without a single failure. Peter used this racing laboratory to quietly build an unbreakable competitive advantage. While the world was not looking, his team mastered thermal management, high-voltage battery architecture, and compact electric motors. By 2016, Peter made his move. He rebranded the company as Lucid Motors, with one singular, impossible objective: build an electric luxury sedan that would embarrass the German luxury flagships, outclass the Tesla Model S, and achieve over 500 miles of range on a single charge. The automotive world called it pure fantasy. Critics pointed out that building an automotive startup from scratch requires billions of dollars in capital, thousands of precision supply chains, and complex manufacturing plants. Hundreds of startups had tried and burned through investor cash, leaving behind empty promises and bankrupt shells. And very quickly, reality hit Lucid with brutal force. By 2017, Lucid had designed a breathtaking prototype called the Lucid Air. But they had run completely out of money. Building a factory in Casa Grande, Arizona required hundreds of millions of dollars that Lucid simply did not have. Peter flew across the globe, pitching to venture capitalists, private equity funds, and Wall Street bankers. Door after door slammed in his face. Investors were terrified. The market was experiencing electric vehicle fatigue, and legacy giants like Audi and Porsche were announcing their own electric lineups. Why would anyone risk billions on an unproven startup led by an obsessed engineer? By early 2018, Lucid was on life support. The company was weeks away from missing payroll. Engineers were nervous, suppliers were demanding upfront cash, and industry commentators were preparing the company's obituary. Peter faced the darkest moment of his entrepreneurial life. He could compromise on the engineering, sell the intellectual property for scraps to a legacy automaker, or watch his dream dissolve into dust. Instead of backing down, Peter doubled down on the one thing he trusted: the unyielding data of his engineering. In late 2018, Lucid secured a historic, life-saving $1 billion investment from the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. The funding did not just save the company. It provided the fuel to build one of the most advanced, purpose-built electric vehicle manufacturing facilities in North America from a patch of bare Arizona desert. Now, Peter had the money. But that created a terrifying new problem: execution. Having capital does not build a car. Precision manufacturing does. While legacy automakers were simply pulling out gas engines and stuffing generic electric motors into old chassis platforms, Peter enforced an uncompromising strategy known as smart miniaturization. He demanded that his engineers design the electric drive unit in-house. Traditional electric motors weighed over 200 pounds and were the size of a large suitcase. Lucid's engineers designed an integrated motor, inverter, and transmission that weighed just 163 pounds. Small enough to fit inside a standard airline carry-on bag, yet powerful enough to produce over 670 horsepower. By shrinking the powertrain, something extraordinary happened to the business economics and the customer experience. Because the motors and battery packaging were so compact, Lucid could make the exterior of the car smaller and more aerodynamic than a Porsche, while making the interior as spacious and opulent as a long-wheelbase Mercedes S-Class. They had solved the ultimate automotive paradox: maximum interior luxury, minimal exterior footprint, and unmatched aerodynamic efficiency. When the production Lucid Air finally rolled out for independent testing in late 2021, the results sent shockwaves through Detroit, Stuttgart, and Silicon Valley. The official EPA rating confirmed an astonishing 520 miles of range on a single charge. It was the longest-range, most energy-efficient luxury electric car ever certified in history. It did not win through brute force. It won through pure, relentless thermodynamic efficiency. Shortly after, the Lucid Air was named the Motor Trend Car of the Year, beating out every established legacy automaker on Earth. The company went public with a multi-billion-dollar valuation, transforming an obscure Silicon Valley battery lab into a global luxury automotive powerhouse. Yet, as any seasoned entrepreneur knows, surviving the prototype stage is only the first battle. The true war is manufacturing scale. Between 2022 and 2024, Lucid faced brutal supply chain bottlenecks, global inflation, and a fierce price war sparked by industry competitors. Building luxury cars by hand is an art. Building tens of thousands of them at scale with flawless quality is a grueling operational mountain. Once again, the market questioned whether Lucid could survive against trillion-dollar legacy giants with century-old supply chains. But Peter understood a deeper economic truth about technology. Hardware leadership eventually creates platform power. Lucid's long-term business model was never just about selling six-figure luxury sedans to wealthy executives. The luxury sedan was merely the flagship, the proof of concept. The true hidden value of Lucid lay in its proprietary intellectual property. In 2023, legendary British supercar maker Aston Martin signed a multi-hundred-million-dollar deal to buy Lucid's electric powertrains and battery technology for their future hypercars. Lucid was no longer just a car brand. It was becoming the premier technology supplier to the global ultra-luxury automotive industry. Think about the sheer scale of that transformation. A young boy who spent his childhood pulling apart rusted tractor engines on a wet Welsh farm, who spent decades mastering the invisible laws of mechanical leverage, who walked away from the biggest electric car giant in history, had successfully created a clean-sheet automotive empire that outperformed the greatest engineering houses in the world. The story of Lucid Motors is not a story of sudden Silicon Valley luck, nor is it a story of easy money. It is a masterclass in founder conviction. In a modern business landscape obsessed with fast software shortcuts, hype, and superficial marketing, Peter Rawlinson proved that the most powerful competitive moat is still grounded in the real, physical world. When you truly master the fundamentals of your craft, when you refuse to accept industry compromises, and when you align your business with the uncompromising laws of physics, even a farm mechanic can build an empire that redefines the future of transportation.